Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build NFL Edition, Thursday Night Football Edition for Week 2. By golly, the NFL season takes forever to get here, and we are already going into the second week of the season. That's both good and bad, if you ask me, but I'm excited. Hopefully we can win some cash. We definitely handed out some good plays on Monday night and the other showdown slates, and of course the main slate. I personally was able to double up across the slate on the main slate, so hopefully you did also have some success. If anything we do here in these videos does help you out, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss out on future videos. What I'm going to do in this video is break down the Thursday Night Football slate between the Commanders and the Packers and just try to look at which plays I think look the best. Of course, if you join our Discord, which is linked at the bottom of this video, you can get access to Taylor and I, our picks, and our advice all through the week for everything that we cover, and that's absolutely free. And definitely consider doing that. And also right now you can join a sleeper with our promo code BUILD and get a 100% match on your first deposit. All right, let's get to it here. Lots to go over. Really fun game. It is a short week, obviously, for the Commanders on the road against the Packers. Game has a really nice 48.5 total, so points are to be expected, although both defenses were very, very good. The Packers did end up giving up a touchdown in garbage time, but for all intents and purposes, both teams allowed just 6 points for the majority of their week 1 games. So Green Bay, I would think, is the more proven defense at this point. It is only 1 week. Anything can happen. But they shut down the Lions offense. Lions had a lot of changes in the offseason, no doubt about it. But they are a more dynamic offense, more proven offense after winning 15 games in the regular season last year, whereas the Giants have Russell Wilson and beyond Malik Neighbors are not like an offense that people are very afraid of. So not like super impressed that the Commanders shut them down, but worth noting both defenses appear to be fully capable of getting the job done as it presents itself. Couple things to consider here, obviously, are the odds. While the game is projected to be a bit of a shootout, obviously the Packers are almost 4-point favorites. It is a short week, primetime setting. All that leans to me liking Green Bay in this game. Obviously, they looked really good with Micah Parsons, only playing 29 snaps in week 1. So if they feel like he's needed, I think that's going to jump a little bit. And obviously, having Micah Parsons on your side going up against Jaden Daniels is something you should feel pretty good about if you're a Packers fan, which I am. So pretty excited personally, not going to lie. The other thing is, of course, the injury situation. We have Austin Eckler banged up a little bit. It's a short week too. So like something that otherwise would not keep somebody out for a Sunday or Monday night game might keep them out for a Thursday night game, especially this early in the year. That could open the door to a pretty big role for somebody like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the guy they call Bill. So he could be a great play. He's a good play anyways. But if Eckler ends up missing, then we could see Rodriguez as well step in and have a role. Obviously, Brian Robinson Jr. is no longer there. So those 3 guys would be the ones we'd be looking at. And there's also Jeremy McNichols. So just something to watch for the Washington side is Eckler. And then on the Green Bay side, they're mostly healthy, but obviously they still have Christian Watson on the PUP list. And then, of course, they got a little bit banged up across the board here. I know Matthew Golden was on the injury report. I know Dontavian Wicks was on the injury report. And also, I think not Romeo Doubs, but somebody else was on the injury report as well. Let me actually pull this up just to get a good idea of who has been. Jaden Reed, of course. Well, Jaden Reed's going to be on the injury report all year because he's dealing with the Jones fracture. But he looked good in week 1. He did not play a ton of snaps, but super efficient, just completely toasted one of the Lions DBs on his touchdown. So if they're going to limit him, and that's going to help him be, a hyper efficient play. Like I still like Jaden Reed across the board on any given slate. All right, let's get into it a little bit. Just keep those things in mind as we go. But starting off, there's early ownership for the captain plays. I'm not super sure I trust this yet. Like obviously Jaden Daniels and Josh Jacobs at 15 and 13%. I do trust that, because Jaden Daniels has the best ceiling of the entire slate. No doubt about it. Best floor too. So we weren't like super excited to play a chalky Caleb Williams yesterday into ownership, so that kind of backfired because we just didn't want to do that. But that he ended up, being obviously the top play. So in this case, like I wouldn't mind playing a chalky Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels just has massive upside. I mean, he can get 30 to 40 fantasy points if he hits. Obviously, there's the issue that I already talked about. They're underdogs. They're on the road. It's a primetime setting. The Packers defense looks pretty damn good. So all that could work against them for sure. Worth noting that even without Micah Parsons last year, Packers were pretty hard on quarterbacks, like in general, and specifically against dual threat quarterbacks. Only one rushing touchdown given up on the ground to quarterbacks in 2024. And if you add Micah Parsons to the mix, I just got to think that, I mean, duplicating that isn't very easy, but I just got to think they're going to be as good, if not better, at containing those guys up front. So that said, Jaden Daniels as the chalk captain, I don't mind it. I just naturally, inherently go away from the chalk in Showdown. But Jaden Daniels is a rock solid play across the board. Not going to waste any more time on him. The only thing is, if you do play him in the captain, just make sure you are going away from the chalky Commanders builds. Maybe you play Daniels naked and play all the Packers. Maybe you pair him with somebody else that isn't really garnering a lot of flex ownership. Flex ownership is not available at the moment, but obviously, if Jaden Daniels is the captain, I would imagine, Ertz or Debo or Terry McLaurin, those guys are going to get, some ownership in the flex. I would just maybe go away from the one that's getting the most ownership. Josh Jacobs carrying ownership here. Wouldn't be surprised if he goes up over Tucker Kraft here. Tucker Kraft is just getting, I'm assuming, initial ownership based off the fact that he's only 8.1K. And, he does have a role with the Packers. He is out there for 80+% of the snaps. And Green Bay's their receiver core could be pretty depleted here. Like if these guys that have injury tags end up not playing, Kraft could end up being a bigger part of the offense in week 2 than he was in week 1. And he actually was, he was involved enough to hit. If you played him in week 1, he did score a touchdown. So I don't mind him, but at that ownership, I will not be in on Kraft at captain. I think since he's only 8.1K in the captain, that means he's going to be a really good price in the flex without even looking. I just know that, obviously. So in the flex, I don't mind eating the Kraft chalk because he's going to be a really nice salary saver and reasonably safe. Doesn't have a monster ceiling, but it's all good enough that in the flex, I don't mind doing that. Like right away, though, like Jacobs is the first guy that would go away from Daniels to go to. We know Jacobs had a tough time against the Lions. And that's fine. I mean, the Lions really sold out to stop the run, and that hurt them ultimately, giving up 27 points. So they stopped Jacobs, but they didn't really do enough to stop the Packers across the board. We also know that Washington can struggle against the run. They did bottle up the Giants, but stopping Tyrone Tracy, I mean, that's not that impressive. I think going, into Green Bay on the road against, Jacobs and betting against Jacobs to, not have a good game for 2 weeks in a row in what looks to be a bit of a plus matchup as the home favorite, that's not something I want to do. Doesn't mean you have to captain Jacobs, but he looks like a really, really good play here. And if I had to pick between Daniels and Jacobs, I'm 100% going Jacobs into this slate. That said, the ownership is not egregious at any captain spot. Like there are slates where we go, we have like the Bills on the slate or something. Maybe not like the other day when they're playing the Ravens, but like the Bills are against whoever and Josh Allen is like 40% owned or something crazy. That's not really going to be the case here. You could see inflated ownership for Jacobs or Daniels, but if the ownership is going to go Daniels' way, I'm going to be going and pivoting to Josh Jacobs all day. Like I said, though, there are other viable options here. Deebo Samuel is approaching the 10% ownership mark, so he's probably that next guy in terms of chalkiness. I think at 12.9K, obviously you're saving a lot of money compared to Daniels or Josh Jacobs. I don't hate it. I think it's fine. Like he was quite involved in the first game. And in the first game there, let me pull it up. He had 10 targets, so super involved as a receiver. Clearly the number 2 guy behind McLaurin. Not really, super confident we're going to get that type of volume every week, but I don't really expect the Commanders to have a ton of success on the ground here. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do need to get him super involved once again, through the air. McLaurin was not really involved in week 1, so I would expect that to flip a little bit. Obviously, he missed a lot of time, so he only came out and he only got 4 targets. So do not be shocked if that happens. And of course, if the ownership is going to be flocking towards Debo and Terry is, only $600 more and coming in at half the captain ownership, if I had to captain a Commander's wide receiver, it's going to be Scary Terry all day long. Now, the guy that's a little bit interesting to me is Zach Ertz. Only 8.7K, like right away. If Tucker Kraft actually is getting ownership and you want to play a tight end in this game, I'm pivoting to Zach Ertz. only $600 more on the captain, a fraction of the ownership. And we saw Sam Laporta just eat up yardage against the Packers. So if we get into a situation where Commanders are indeed playing from behind and they have to throw because the running game isn't there, I mean, the Packers' run defense looked very good. They bottled up Jahmyr Gibbs all day long. 9 carries, 19 yards, 10 catches, 31 yards. Like, nobody in Washington has is better than Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, there's only like 3 to 5 players in the entire league at running back that you could argue would be more explosive or more talented than Gibbs. So Washington has okay running backs, and they look good in week 1, but I'm not afraid of them if I'm looking at the Packers defense and trying to consider who I'm going to play in this game. But Ertz looks pretty good. It is a pretty good matchup across the board. Like, Packers historically have struggled against tight ends. I think they're now more equipped to be more successful in that regard. But obviously the defense is going to be focused on containing Jaden Daniels, and they're going to be focused on not allowing Debo or Terry to take the top off the defense, much like they stopped Jameson Williams and St. Brown from doing last week. So I think the intermediate stuff is going to be open. That's going to be a lot of dump offs again, like we saw with Gibbs in week 1, and Ertz could be part of that too. Ertz does have a limited ceiling, but full point PPR and at DraftKings. So at 8.7K, he is a guy we could see get 7+ catches for sure. In week 1, he was not super involved. He did score a touchdown, but he only had 5 targets. I would expect him to get quite a few more. I think he and Terry are both going to get a lot more work in this game. So they are on my radar for sure, and I would be looking at them over Debo, but I think Debo is an okay play. The Commanders' running backs are pretty interesting here. If Eckler's in, I think at 10.2K, that's a bit steep for me, just because if he's in, they're just going to share the wealth. Like, he was pretty involved, but he only played like 47% of the snaps or something, so he's definitely splitting the work with Krosky Merritt. So best case scenario, Eckler and Krosky Merritt are going to eat into each other to a certain degree. If Eckler's out, though, Krosky Merritt, who did look pretty good and busted off a 42-yard run to close out that game against the Giants, he would look like a really, really good play at 10.5K here. Again, same deal, a little bit steep for the captain spot, but only 5% ownership at the moment. That is one spot where, like, if Eckler were ruled out, like, I would expect the Kraft ownership to plunge and the Krosky Merritt ownership to just go way up. So I don't think you're going to be sneaky playing Krosky Merritt if Eckler's out. If Eckler's in, I think Krosky Merritt becomes a very interesting captain play, because then his ownership would be curbed to a certain degree. And then we can feel pretty good about getting away with murder here a little bit, just getting kind of a sneaky play. On the other side, I spoke about the Packers injuries. So they got a ton of guys banged up. We know Jaden Reed's going to be banged up the whole year, basically. Jones fracture, that's not going to go away. Got to keep an eye on Wicks. Got to keep an eye on Matthew Golden. If they're out, obviously this gets easy, because some of these other guys are going to be super elevated. Like, if Wicks is out, then like Romeo Doubs looks amazing. Matthew Golden looks amazing. I'm not super excited to go attack Reed, just because I don't think they're going to play him a ton, and he needs to be hyper efficient if he's going to be out there. I think, I say this every time, I don't want to be a broken record, but like, showdown slates, you can do anything. You can get away with anything if it breaks your way. Like, you can play a terrible player at captain, but if they bust off a 72-yard touchdown, they obviously hit at like 3K or less, whatever the price they may be, and then that allows you to stack the rest of the game. Like that Bills-Ravens game, obviously, ultimately, you probably needed one of Josh Allen, Derrick Henry, Lamar, or Zay, because they all went absolutely nuclear. But if you get into a situation where you had somebody like Ray Davis or another cheap option like Tylan Wallace in that game, just say they busted off a big play and scored, you get all those dudes, and then you get a cheap play. Then that obviously is going to work, to your advantage. Anyways, long story short, for the Packers side, you just got to keep an eye on the injury report. We don't know enough yet, but I'm going to be very interested in playing Matthew Golden if he's in. If Matthew Golden is in, he is one of my favorite captain plays of the slate. Not cheap at 9.6K, but he's way cheaper than any of the other top options that we're going to be considering. He's not garnering any attention right now because he had a kind of a quiet week 1. And obviously there are other good options to play here. Like Daniels and Jacobs are just way safer. There's no doubt about it. But Golden's going to pop eventually. And I wouldn't mind betting on it happening in a situation where obviously, Washington's going to be either struggling immensely to contain Jacobs, or they're going to be selling out like the Lions did to try to stop them. So either Jacobs is going to have success and it's going to open up the play action for the Packers, which that would mean just a death sentence for Washington, or the Packers are just going to flat out be forced to take it to the air like they did in week 1. Either way, I'm not going to bet on Matthew Golden, who's super explosive, by the way. I'm not going to bet on him having 2 stinkers to start his career. Under the bright lights, the Thursday Night Football, I'm going to bet on him smashing. So he looks really good to me. In the event he's out, I would boost Romeo Doubs a lot. $6K for him in the captain is very interesting. I think you can consider him anyways with Wicks banged up. And in the event Wicks and Golden just don't play because it is a short week, then we can absolutely obviously prioritize Doubs, and I don't think I'd be alone in that. And then, there could be even somebody like Savion Williams, a really athletic rookie that they drafted in the 3rd round. He could be really interesting. So definitely very, very interested in the Packers wide receivers. Not really interested in like these backup Commanders guys like John Bates, Noah Brown, Ben Sinnott. Jerry McNichols, if Eckler's out, I think 4.2K. I think he's fine. Luke Musgrave for the Packers backup tight end. He's going to be out there a little bit. Just none of these guys I feel like amazing about. I do like the strategy of like putting all these different cheap dudes in the captain slot and then loading up, especially in a game with a 48.5 total. That's fine. I just think if you're going to enter one lineup or if you're going to enter a lot of lineups, I think for the one lineup, you want like a really rock solid play that does have a ceiling. So you're either going after Daniels and Jacobs and getting different in the flex, or you're going after, a guy that still does have immense upside like a Golden or a Terry or something like that. So you're getting different, but you're not like sacrificing, some semblance of stability and ceiling at the same time. All right, the only thing I didn't touch on, I think, is going to be the defenses and the kickers. Kickers are always fair game, especially in a short week, especially in a showdown slate. I think that's really the only time you would be using them in DK. I'm fine with either kicker. It's okay. Don't mind it. I would lean more towards the Washington kicker just because they are on the road and they're the underdogs. So it just seems more likely that if they're gonna live up to that line, then their drives would stall a little bit more, and then they would have to kick more field goals. Not super excited to target them though in a game with a total like this, and the same can be said for the defenses. I did say before I lean more towards Green Bay's defense being like actually legit, one that I could have trust in. But I don't think either defense feels super safe because Jaden Daniels can absolutely wreck a game, and the Packers favored at home with everything they have at this point. I don't think that's I think Washington is not in a good spot. I think Washington going on the road in this spot against a very capable offense, I don't expect them to come in and completely shut them down like they did with the Giants. All right, just looking over, scanning it real quick to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. Yeah, that's probably just about it. So going into Thursday, I will finalize my favorite plays. But hopefully you kind of gathered that a little bit in this breakdown. Hopefully this helps you out a little bit. If it did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and come join us in Discord to have that conversation, to share your lineups, to ask questions. And that can, that goes from DFS to season long and dynasty, whatever you need help with, we are there to help. And of course, it's not just NFL DFS. We offer MMA, WNBA, MLB, all active right now. And of course, we have channels in there to talk about whatever sport that you like to play. All right, thanks for watching and good luck.